Generational wealth could be shifting, and today we're going to be breaking that down, how gold and crypto are starting to intersect. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Let's get into it today. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust. If you guys are looking at long-term and you want to think about an IRA, well, you can get into an IRA, including crypto, gold, silver, all of that available over on iTrust Capital. The cool thing about setting it up over there is it's very easy, very secure, and of course, one of the things that they have done has built a great business. Over 250,000 people now involved in iTrust Capital. So check them out. Use our link down below. You get a $100 funding reward to get started, and you guys can get going. Before I bring our guest on today, we have Andy Schectman coming in from Miles Franklin today, and we're going to talk about gold, but I want to go to this first clip to give you a framework of what's going on. Take a look.
Is the bull case for gold still intact?
This is a flight to safety. This is gold now competing versus the dollar, and that's driven in large part by central bank buying, which doesn't show any signs of slowing down.
The China news earlier this week about China increasing the quotas to allow more domestic buying of gold. Yeah, they wouldn't be doing that if they thought the gold market was going to go into some kind of crazy territory and would damage domestic investors.
I rely on retail investors, and they are not buying. You know, the magic number was always 80 to 1. What's not moving up? It's silver. And when retail investors get into the gold market, they buy both. Central banks don't buy silver. If everybody, the retail investor, was clamoring into the market to buy coins and bars, do you think those premiums would be going down or going through the roof? Of course, they'd be going through the roof. Yeah. They're not. And the retail investor is still on the sidelines.
Why is gold moving at the rate in which it is? So I thought I'll bring in our gold expert, and that is Andy Schectman coming in from Miles Franklin. How are you, Andy?
Paul, great to see you, brother. I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent,
Hope
excellent.
You are as well.
What do you make of all of this move? We are seeing gold at really all-time highs. Obviously, the performance has continued to outpace that of most market positions right now, and the analysts are scrambling, trying to figure out where does it go from here. What's your current position on that before we kind of get into some of the items?
Look, I mean, in 2019, the most powerful bank on the planet, the Bank of International Settlements, Paul, the central bank reclassified gold as the world's only other tier 1 reserve asset. That's the foundation from which all of this springs. But the bottom line is, since 2017 and then the reclassification of gold in 2019, the most well-informed and most well-financed players in the world, the central banks, have been on a buying spree that has not stopped and continues to this day. And when you realize that that these players are always well ahead of the curve, I think it should not be underestimated whatsoever. So yes, it has been the central bank buying unequivocally that has kept the market afloat. Not just the central banks, and in particular the BRICS nations, China and India and Russia. And you know, you had a clip in there with Rich Check, and he's a good friend of mine, and I agree with what he said about the retail side. I don't particularly agree with what he said about silver, and I have my own take on silver, but you look at China as an example. They're the second largest producer of silver in the world, and for the past year and a half, they've been flying all around Latin America, in particular really planting stakes in Peru and buying up all of the doré and concentrate from all the miners there. In other words, doré is a bar that is crudely fashioned as they pull the metal out of the ground before they send it for further purification. Anyways, they take all of this stuff and they send it back to China, disintermediating the market and refining it there. The second largest producer of silver in the world is doing this. They're paying double what the West will pay. You have Russia now, who has made a public statement that they're adding it to their national stockpile, and India has purchased over 900 million ounces of silver in the past 4 years. There are reasons why the price hasn't gone up. We can delve into that if you'd like. It will. But as far as gold is concerned, absolutely. There has been 100%. It has been the central bank buying, and to me, more significant, the repatriation, the draining of the world's exchanges. In other words, no, I don't want to leave it there. Give it to me. I want to remove counterparty risk.
All right, so what you're saying is really kind of mirroring what's going on in the S&P. If you look right now, gold holding above the S&P 500. And this kind of number is surprising to me because this is the last 20 years in terms of that chart. That, in essence, is continuing to hold gold at its all-time high. And I guess the real question is, when you look at China, who just sold some Bitcoin right now, This is a little bit older, but they just sold some Bitcoin, opting into now buying more gold. Back to your point, central banks really focusing in. With that, along with what you see right now in the trading activity, let me kind of expand that up a little bit, because this is my concern. China popped. This is the Chinese gold trading activity that exploded, but it retraced back down to its normal levels. Do you think that was just the initial push, or do you think this is the beginning of a trend?
Yeah, I think it's certainly maybe the escalation of a trend that's been going on for quite some time underneath the surface. You know, guys like you are the media, Paul. The media does a pathetic job, in fact, no job at all, of telling us what's really happened. Why would no one in this country even understand that since 2019, there are two tier one assets, the U.S. Treasury, which has been the only tier one asset as far as central banks are concerned, since the end of World War II. But by the way, gold is there too now, and the central bank's buying it like it's going out of style. Yet we don't hear about any of this. Not only the reclassification to put something on equal footing with the Treasury, and or the massive accumulation, and or the draining of the exchanges. You know, I was working out in the club the other day. I'm watching CNBC while I'm on the elliptical machine, and gold's at all-time highs. And I watched the ticker underneath. It took 47 spins to see gold from the first time to the next time I saw Bitcoin there, 9 times between those 47 spins. So they're focusing on things like Bitcoin. They're focusing on things like the Mag 7. They're focusing on all of these things, while gold at all-time highs at over $3,300 yesterday is being ignored. Now, is that on purpose? I don't know. From my perspective, it sure feels like it is. But yeah, I think this is a trend that has been going on under the surface for quite some time. And not only that, China buys far more gold, far more than anyone, or than they tell anyone. And this has been going on forever, since the beginning of my career. So I would say those numbers are greatly understated. In fact, someone I respect a lot, Alistair McLeod, 2 years ago said he believed that they had 38,000 metric tons, then 18,000 by the people and 20 by the state. That would be 5 times more than we supposedly have. And we still haven't audited our gold Trump was talking about a couple of months ago.
It's interesting that we haven't heard anything more about that audit. I mean, it kind of went dark a little bit, so I'm not sure what the administration is talking about. Back to your point, media, it's interesting to what you're saying there, because when you look at how the media seems to have a little bit of an affinity toward crypto in general. I mean, listen, we're crypto tech, but we also look at just assets in general, which is why we talk about gold and silver and other things that are opportunistic here. But when you look at retail, that's the question mark, I think, right now, because obviously retail, even though it may not have a big effect on gold's current price, the question is does it hit the plateau? I want to play a clip for you on retail potentially selling gold. Take a look.
If they're not doing it now, when are they going to do it?
It's a commentary on how difficult it is for the middle class out there right now. We have clients come to us and they say, listen, I don't want to sell my gold, but I have to. I got to pay down a credit card debt. When folks need the money, right, they go to what's most liquid. And primarily that's gold and silver. So they can't tap into their home equity lines anymore.
You know, retail gold holders could be the weak link in the potential rise of gold to 4,000. Do you think that's going to have any impact at all? Do you feel like the central banks and nation states are still going to be the driving force?
Yeah, the retail public has very little, if any, effect on it. I mean, yeah, look, my friend Rick Rule and I were talking the other day, and he said, Andy, that there's a 0.5% allocation from Joe and Jane six-pack to the Harvard Endowment Fund in terms of allocation to gold across the whole North American matrix. So it's a speck of dust. Here we're at 0.5%. The average over the past 40 years is 2.5%. You just go back to the average of 2.5% allocation.
Right.
That's a 5-fold increase in demand, and bang. I mean, there's nothing to get, and that's the problem. So no, the retail public is nothing as far as I'm concerned. This is being driven at a much higher level by the positioning of the sovereign wealth funds and the central banks, in my mind, almost entirely.
So this could be, you know, somewhat of a unison move that could be happening right now from the idea of where retail is versus where, you know, nation states and central banks are going, which could, continue to drive gold higher. If you look at Gen Z investors right now, this is a chart off of a recent report that was done, And what they analyzed was what was the likelihood of crypto. And this is talking about instead of a retirement account. And it still showed that we were going to see cryptocurrencies, if you look right there on Gen Z, 42%, 36% on millennial. Everybody's up with exception of Gen X and baby boomers, which continue to push in other areas. Obviously, still Gen Z trending up on cryptocurrency. So at some point, Andy, we are going to see a large percentage of the investing public shifting over to digital assets. And that could be digital gold, could be a lot of different cryptocurrencies. We're starting to see a lot of that. Do you think that that will have any impact on the trajectory of gold?
Yeah, it might in the light of stablecoins. Certainly, it sure could, because now you give access to the people who probably weren't even thinking about it at all, which is a shame. And that's why, I speak at the XRP conference in a panel that you'll be moderating. That's why I'm good friends with Mark Moss and Natalie Burnell and have them on my show and go on their shows. That's why I have tried to bridge the gap, if you will, and come on your show between the cryptocurrency community and the gold community. The message should be very similar. We should not be confrontational. We should be together in terms of, I think in unison, we're far stronger. People's portfolios become stronger as well. So yeah, I could see that happening, certainly if that trend holds true. Now, the key to this is to make an ecosystem for a stable coin backed by gold, for example, very, very transparent. Where is it being stored? What form is it in? Is it deliverable? Those three things to me would legitimize a stable coin backed by gold. And is it deliverable? Where is it being stored? Who's storing it? And in what form? Those things to me have yet to, in my mind, sufficiently be addressed to attract my clients or even myself, who is open and has a little bit of cryptocurrency, open to that ideology. I haven't seen it quite yet.
Well, we'll talk about BRICS in a second because they are kind of discussing that very issue. But there's also a handful of companies I'll mention in a few minutes that might be transitioning into the idea of tokenized gold. Before we go there, I want to get into tariffs for just a short bit. United States now generating about $21 billion in tariff revenue. First of all, do you think the tariff impact, obviously gold has benefited from this tariff impact, because I think this is now a flight to safety. People are looking at that in the Dixie, and then also some of the issues that we're facing at the S&P 500. At some point, this is going to settle down. At that point, when it does settle down and we get some deals done, do you feel like the shine will be off of gold and we'll start to see movements backwards?
But I look at it from a standpoint of, these are the same countries, Paul, that are keeping our country afloat by buying our treasuries, using the dollar as the global reserve. This keeps rates low. This keeps asset prices high. This keeps goods cheap. So sure, the trade gap looks ugly on paper. And I think, honestly, to me, enacting these tariffs is the mistake. It is a mistake, and it should be the carrot, not the stick. That's just my own personal opinion. Well, I think you'll see it.
I think it was Jamie Dimon was on record not too long ago saying the very same thing. and he was basically saying, hey, listen, we are in a shift right now that could reset the entire global monetary system. That was something he was even more concerned about than even a possible recession. So
that's right.
Very, very big point to what you're saying there. Let's talk about tokenized commodities. On the rise right now, still continuing to rise up. Ethereum, kind of the blockchain of choice when it comes to tokenized commodities. And we are seeing more movement in this space. If you look at an example right here of asset classes right now on RWA, still precious metals. Who do you think's buying this? Is this still, I mean, this is outperforming everything. Precious metals, then you get into agriculture, and then, nothing. So who do you feel like is buying gold, especially in the RWA side of things, from an asset class performance?
It's a good question. I don't know who's exactly buying it, but it makes sense to me because, a lot of these other items that are tokenized, it's not like, and again, I'm not as familiar with the tokenized products, maybe perhaps as you are, but if these products allow for delivery, I can understand why people would want to do that. It's not like you can take delivery of easily of farmland or of many of these tokenized assets, but you can of precious metals. And, maybe there is this awakening. Maybe this line of thinking is starting to permeate, that the message that would drive someone into cryptocurrencies or into precious metals in many respects is similar. It's breaking away from the madness of our monetary policy, the irresponsibility of our fiscal policy. So these things align. And I think where things differ is that typically the person in cryptocurrencies is focused on making a profit, and the person who's interested in buying precious metals is not. They're more concerned about what's coming, and they're more concerned about preservation. Maybe this amount of unison, or this parallel line of thinking is starting to creep into the crypto space, which would be amazing as far as I'm concerned. It's what I've been trying to do for a long time. And my company will be making some unique announcements that you kind of know about in the future, very soon, in the near future, for us to continue to bridge these two communities. And I think it's very important. I think it's vital that these two communities join together. We are far stronger. Our message is stronger. And what we're all trying to achieve, I think, is far stronger if the crypto community and the hard asset community are not mutually exclusive of one another, but united.
Totally. Definitely, to your point. I do want to play a clip for you. This is the CEO of Tokenized. We've had him on the show a couple of times. Very interesting guy. And he goes in on the idea of tokenized commodities, but take a look at this. On physical to digital, are you guys planning on doing anything like that?
I think when the show is out, we will already have launched gold bars, 1 ounce gold bars, and 1 ounce is 1 NFT. You get a certificate of ownership. You can actually get access to the physical gold. Storage fees are high normally, so we offer that free of charge. So you connect your wallet, you buy the NFT, and then you can trade it, gift it, hold it, whatever you do.
All right, so you can see, I mean, they're based out of Switzerland, but the point is they launched that here. It's sold out. The potential of what they're trying to roll out is very significant. I'll talk about the blockchain in a second. Do you plan on going in that direction anytime soon for tokenized assets, especially commodities? I know right now you can get all silver, gold, platinum available on Miles Franklin. Anything in the hopper there?
Yes, I am the U.S. contact for Glint. Jason Cousins, the CEO of Glint, will be another person on the panel that you are moderating. And Jason and I have discussed this at length. Now, I'm not trying to say that this is going to happen tomorrow, but yes, this is something that we do have many ideas behind, and intentions and aspirations. And with the infrastructure that Glint has, metal being allocated in BRICS, Switzerland, and the tremendous technology that they have into their app, and I find it to be elegant and exquisite, actually. So yes, we are thinking about it. I've been in something like this 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I worked with the Royal Canadian Mint and a company called TradeWinds to roll out a digital form of gold held by the Royal Canadian Mint. And the mistake they made was a private permission-based blockchain system, and it wasn't allowed out into the ecosystem. They did it wrong. And I told them that from the get-go. You guys need to open it up into the Gen Z. You need to open it up into all of the exchanges. They wouldn't do that. So it seems that these folks have done something along those lines, and that's just it. If it's held in Switzerland, if it's held in 1 ounce gold bars that are numbered and shown on an NFT with the ability to take possession and held at a legitimate vault, then yes, you have stumbled onto something very legitimate. And these are the things that I think we have in place right now. We could naturally progress into a tokenized form of gold.
All right. Well, one thing I would say, if any planning to go that direction, it's important to say that, the connection to DeFi will probably be the deciding factor, especially because of the use case of how crypto and tokenized assets, especially on commodities, can be used. Hey, I want to jump over to BRICS real quick. You had some really good insights the last time we were talking about BRICS, and here's Putin saying relations with the BRICS countries cannot be stopped, so he obviously sees this still as a very powerful position. This next tweet showed that the BRICS right now, principally Russia and China and India, are going to look at a counter on a possible U.S.-backed stablecoin, which we already know is in the works, with a gold-backed stablecoin. What are your thoughts on, first of all, BRICS and their current, progress, and if they get this off the ground, a gold-backed stablecoin?
I think it's huge. And it wouldn't surprise me at all. They've been the largest accumulators of gold in the world. Really, you could argue they have an infrastructure in place already for this to happen. Not only have they been the largest accumulators of gold in the world, but they have bridge technology that has already been, I guess you could say, rolled out just recently.
Are you talking about the mBridge project?
Well, it's similar to mBridge. The problem with mBridge is that at the 12th hour last year, the Bank of International Settlements pulled out of mBridge and embarrassed them in front of the world. And see, it was the BIS, their innovation hub, for 4 years helped develop mBridge technology, Chinese technology. China, Hong Kong, Thailand, United Arab Emirates, they developed it. And at the very, very last minute, after it was operational, the BIS and Augustus Carson's the guy that runs it, said, yeah, we got to back out. We're closing it down because we can't be involved with any countries that are sanctioned by the West. It's as if Augustus just realized that Russia was the R in BRICS.
Yeah.
And they did this, what I think, which amounts to espionage. They knew exactly what they were doing. So just the other day, the People's Bank of China, maybe last week, announced its digital RMB cross-border settlement system. And they connected it with 10 ASEAN. It's ASEAN countries. These are all the countries in Southeast Asia and 6 Middle Eastern nations. This is 40% of global GDP right now. And it bypasses now the SWIFT system. And this will be music to your ears, and I'll just read it flat out. It says, in practical terms, China's digital currency bridge, they're not calling it mBridge because of the BIS, and who basically screwed them at the last minute, has significantly reduced cross-border payment processing times from the typical 3 to 5 days associated with SWIFT to approximately 7 seconds. And so, yes, they have the infrastructure in place. They have the gold. They're the ones that have been buying it, ones that have been producing it. They have the bridge technology. They have all of this stuff you need to do it. And as far as I'm concerned, look, Dilma Rousseff, the former president of Brazil and the head of the new development bank, told us in January that they have agreed in principle to a new settlement token called the unit, which was going to be traded over mBridge. It's 40% gold-backed and deliverable upon request by central and commercial banks. So yes, they are going to do it, and gold will be their de facto settlement currency, not a unified currency for the BRICS, but a unified settlement currency, and gold will be pegged to it. Now they have the ability to trade it instantly over this new bridge technology, bypassing SWIFT. I think it's in the cards for sure. 100%.
Well, one thing we're watching, of course, when you look at a potential gold-backed stablecoin is, what blockchain is it most likely going to land on? My guess is it looks like it's probably going to be Ethereum or some fork of it. But back to your point, we reported on what we saw within the Asian countries kind of unifying around a possible, cross-border settlement. All this leaning into blockchain technology, which obviously we talk about here on the show quite a bit.
And real quick, Paul, not to interrupt you, please give me just 1 second, and that is, don't forget, these ASEAN countries, most of them have expressed interest in joining BRICS. Many of them are not. But this advancement is part of China's broader strategy to bring together the Belt Road Initiative. You're talking 75% of human population and 55% of global GDP right now. And all of those countries, 150, I don't know how many plus countries, they're not part of BRICS. Now, again, you unify all of these countries under one type of new settlement system, one type of infrastructure, bypassing SWIFT, using gold. They think in terms of decades. We're thinking in terms of seconds. They're playing 4D chess. We're playing checkers. You can see it doesn't have to just be BRICS. That's the hub. Yeah. But they have all of the periphery that is aligned with BRICS' ideology that hasn't crossed over that Rubicon yet. But the Belt Road is a perfect example, as are these ASEAN countries, the Southeast Asian countries. 40% of global GDP that will choose their geographic partners, I believe, over the U.S. and find safety in numbers. That is the problem with what Trump is doing with tariffs. And his tariffs to the BRICS nations are not tariffs. They're sanctions. If you don't do this, Paul, I'm sanctioning you 140%. Or I'm tariffing you 140%. No, that's not a tariff. That's a threat. That's a sanction masquerading
How long
as
do
a
you think
tariff.
that'll take, Andy, for that to occur? I mean, if we really get unification, we already see the technology is in place. It's moving at light speed right now.
It's happening right now. The unification is happening. Yeah,
you've got Russia coming in with 2
happening.
crypto exchanges trying to sidestep these sanctions, which that's another factor that plays into it. So how long? What do you think?
Well, here's the
3
thing.
years, 5 years?
I think it's happening faster than people think, but the amount of information I think has been cut off. After what the BIS did, they do not want to tell the West what they're up to until they're already done with it. I don't know. I think that you could see this happening, I don't know, by the end of this year, early 2026. I think without question, we are moving in that direction. And as a side note, Judy Shelton, who I interviewed, told me, and she was Trump's nominee for the head of the Federal Reserve in 2016, said that on July 4th, 2026, he will issue gold-backed treasuries, 50-year gold-backed treasuries to start, and then smaller duration thereafter, with stablecoins attached to it. Judy told me this on my interview, and I think the race to connect gold to a new system is underway. That's why we've seen the United States become net importer of gold since November, with over 60 million ounces of gold imported. There is a race and an understanding, I believe, that gold will be tied to some new monetary order. So who's going to win the race? I think the race is accelerating, and they know that. Who's going to be the first one to say we win? First to market, I think, has significant impact on future trends.
Well, speaking of first to market, and also, an anticipation of what we've been looking at in watching, RWAs just in general when it comes down to commodities. I want to play a clip for you because this is the TMN's guy again, talking about where this potentially could run, how a tokenized system could actually come to fruit. We asked him specifically if it could run within the XRP ledger. This is what he said. Listen in. Which chain would you choose?
What I can tell you is it won't be on Ethereum because they need a different settlement layer, which is much faster, offering a hybrid model between private and public disclosures. They don't want to disclose all their transactions like it is on Ethereum.
Well,
so it will be a hybrid model.
There's a blockchain out there. XRP Ledger would be a good one. You could go right there to it. And I like that. Okay, that's all I needed. All right, so we kind of pinned him down of potentially going into that in terms of what that might look like. With that being the case, you look at this move by SBI, one of the largest Japanese groups out there, and Digital Hub now acquiring DeFi, I guess. And if you look at some of the things that have been happening, these are the validators over on the XRPL EVM. All the big guys, typical that if you understand the XRP EVM. Then if you look at this one right here, which has been added right here, SBI adds them as a validator. So again, we're looking at a potential here where we could see back to the XRP ecosystem become very, very involved with what could happen in commodities, specifically precious metals. What are your thoughts about that? Do you feel like this is maybe the connection to crypto that everybody's been waiting for?
Yeah, it would be, especially if they make a delivery mechanism. That's the key to it. The key is to be able, it's not just to be able to trade, but it's the ability to possess it. They talk about the ability to go cross-border, to do these things, the freedom that crypto provides, the rails that XRP does provide for this type of thought. If you have crossed the bridge and are able to then provide delivery, you've won the game as far as I'm concerned. And XRP certainly seems to have the infrastructure and the rails and the partners. If you're able to pull that off, I think you win the game. And I haven't seen anything other than XRP that would even lead me to believe anyone's even trying to do this the right way. They seem to be doing it the right way.
Yeah, well, there are other organizations out there that have kind of gone in this direction in terms of RWAs, but the point really boils down to yields, because I think that's where DeFi, the connectability of what we'll see, the interoperability of how these ecosystems will work. You look at what Securitize is doing right here in Miami, and they even state it right here. The idea is that we're going to go live on the testnet very soon, then the mainnet, and the goal is to do that before the end of Q2, which, remember, this is BlackRock, Ethereum, and Arbitrum primarily. This could get very big very quickly because we're going to see yields start to play out within this with RWA. So this will be possibly, obviously we'll see tokenized securities, but we could see other forms of this starting to go. It looks as though the whole world, Andy, is about to shift monetarily to a digitized platform. Back to your point, being able to still deliver physical assets for these is going to be important when it comes to gold. If you look at all this,
Paul, it's the key, because it inspires, the immutability and the transparency of blockchain is beautiful and elegant. Mm-hmm. But the final piece is, show me how I can possess it if I really want to. And if you've done that, I think it's a game changer.
Listen, there is a lot brewing in the markets right now around all of this. We will continue to cover this for you guys, including the gold price, what's happening with crypto, obviously what's going on with RWAs, which that seems to be an indicator right now of how maybe the greater market could be moving. So, Andy, great to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for stopping in.
Thanks for having me on. I enjoy it, and I do think our two communities need to do this more often. So count me in anytime you have an open slot. I'm here, and I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, you guys, if you're not in the Diamond Circle, get in right now. It's our own private group. It is hundreds of thousands of members that come in every week on our email. I do a special brief that goes out to that Diamond Circle. You guys can join for free. Just hit the link down below. Follow me on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.